I stepped off the loading ramp and got a good view of the reason why we landed in the wrong part of the spaceport. A giant cargo hauler lay on its side, broken and bent. Had a ship crashed into it, or had the engine exploded? I couldn't tell from here. And large slabs of spaceship insulation gel sprawled everywhere. The hauler's cargo, clearly. As I watched, 3 people with a hovercart tried to shove one aside to no effect, and another slab as big as a cross-section from my old apartment on Earth slowly peeled off from inside the remains of the hauler. It hit the ground with the squishiest thud I'd ever heard. The thing was the colour of smoke, but dense enough to make the ground vibrate from here. I whistled, then regretted it when the tentacle alien on the ramp beside me scrunched up at the sound. "Sorry," I told Mur. "Ow," he said, uncurling his blue-black tentacles. "Was that a human swear? It's sharp." "More of a wow, look at that kind of noise," I said, "but swearing would be appropriate. What a mess." "You said it. Glad it's not our problem." Captain Sunlight came down the ramp to join us, regal as ever in the bright yellow scales that had given her the name. "Our client isn't answering," she said. "I put in a request at the local med center to see if they've been injured in this crisis, but haven't heard back yet. Anyone interested is welcome to join me in walking over to where their ship was meant to be parked." 3 other crewmates followed her out of the ship. Blip and Blop in their flowiest silks, that both matched their fin colours and also showed off their biceps, and Z, with his purple exoskeleton as shiny as always. They all made quiet noises of dismay at the state of the spaceport. Well, Blip and Blop seemed dismayed. Z was looking down his non-existent nose at whoever had been careless enough to cause such a mess. Mur waved a tentacle. "Lead the way," he said to the captain. "Here's hoping the ship isn't buried under all that." "Yeah, it looks heavy," I said as we moved out. I wouldn't be surprised if a little ship could be crushed under that, especially if it also took damage from whatever kaboom happened in the first place. As we got closer, I made several observations in a range of importance. A medical shuttle was zipping off towards the city centre, while another appeared to be waiting around just in case. The medics were standing there chatting, instead of tending to anyone. The gel slabs couldn't be pushed, though they could be lifted with a big enough gravity platform. There was only one of those here. Cleanup was going to take a while. The slabs covered a large area of ground, as well as a couple ship-sized lumps, turning the spaceport into a sea of smoky grey translucent rubber. A small creature bounced around on it. People were shouting about that. "What's going on over there?" I asked. Captain Sunlight sighed deeply and sped up. "I really hope that's not our cargo." "Our cargo's an animal?" "Yes, among other things. I thought I told you, but I guess not. It was a last-minute addition to our load. Someone's exotic pet." She looked up at me with concern on her lizardly face. "How are your animal-catching skills?" "Depends on the animal," I said, squinting at the fast-moving thing. I was the critter expert on the ship, but I didn't want to promise anything. "What species is it?" "I'll bring up the description in a moment," Captain Sunlight said. "I think I see our client over there." She was right. The slender Frillian with a leash and an exasperated expression did turn out to be the person we'd come to meet, and the various spaceport officials on the scene had no easy answers about how to catch his pet. "Normally he comes running for food," the client exclaimed. "But he's got plenty to pick from here." He pointed accusingly at the spill of fruit from a truck smashed open by a slab of gel. "Oh, like that's my fault," said a heat seeker who was busy gathering fruit. "Half my stock is ruined. Go catch your little menace and stop complaining." This led to a rant about how impossible the menace in question was to catch when he didn't want to be. Giving him a bath had to be done by trickery, and he was never going to come down from this playground full of food. And, oh, The man should have just paid for a transit that allowed him to bring pets. Z muttered agreement at that last, but I don't think the guy heard him. Spaceport officials offered calming words, and a reminder that nets had been sent for. Captain Sunlight asked one of them, "Is there an animal handling service anywhere nearby?" "Nowhere close," was the answer. She looked back up at me. "Any bright ideas? Here, I'll show you the description." While she unfolded a screen and brought up the information from this particular courier gig, I watched the jumpy creature carefully. He was close enough for a good look now, since he'd come back to snatch another alien citrus off the ground, making the owner yell after him. My first thought was monkey, followed by frog. The animal was long-limbed and green, though with velvety fur instead of an amphibian shine, and had a tail that could hold fruit just as well as his hands could. Pointy nose, round ears, and the biggest eyes of anyone here except for Z. He could probably see a person sneaking up from behind. He was fast, and he was clearly having a great time jumping from one bouncy surface to another, making chattering noises and spilling citrus peel everywhere. "It's called a tree leaper," Captain Sunlight told me. "Warm-blooded, diurnal, omnivorous, and a bit of a troublemaker." Mur snorted. "Sounds like your species," he told me. "Just with a tail," Z added. "I wanted a tail as a kid," I said absently, thinking hard. I'd just caught sight of a ship full of humans disembarking nearby, on the other side of the biggest pile of gel. They looked like they were in pretty good shape. One was already walking on the gel and laughing about the bounce. I had an idea. "Excuse me, Captain, I think I see reinforcements," I said, then ran off towards my unsuspecting kinfolk. When I got close, I took great pleasure in yelling, "Hey, humans! Who wants to help me chase a monkey across a trampoline?" They were all smiles and questions. Then when I led the way to where they could see the monkey frog jumping around with stolen fruit, they volunteered immediately. "I'll get the small cargo net. Do you think the big gravity ones will slow it down?" "Bet you a cleaning shift that I can grab it in a towel. You're on!" I told Captain Sunlight that I had successfully recruited some animal catchers, and she didn't bat an eye, just suggesting that our crew gather similar tools from our own ship. Z and the twins rushed off, while Mo stayed to yell suggestions. The other humans were already venturing into the bounce zone. I hurried to follow, grabbing a fist-sized lime thing from the ground as I did. We made a wide circle before closing in. The tree leaper saw us coming, of course, threw a half-eaten fruit at one person and made a rude noise at another, then sprang up to ricochet between surfaces like an unholy pinball. Thus began a merry chase. It brought back memories of bouncy houses and birthday parties at the trampoline gym. The gel was tough enough to take an impact without doing more than denting briefly and launching a person hooting into the air to rebound off another surface and hopefully not smack into anyone else in mid-air. There were a couple close calls, but that just made everything funnier somehow. I jumped off one gel wall and hit another with my shoulder, making the monkey frog turn a 180 back towards a pair of guys with gravity wands. He tried to spring away to the side, but I threw my line to bounce off a surface nearby, spooking him enough to change direction yet again. Somebody slid down a gel slab like a rubbery playground slide, yelping as that turned into a wild tumble. The animal didn't know what to make of all the flailing and laughter. His hesitation was enough for the gravity wands to lift him partway off the gel. Then, when he stuck a leg out far enough to jump free, he was immediately bagged by a grinning lady with a cargo net. Everybody cheered. The tree leaper growled and tried to scramble free, but no luck. Somebody else caught up and helped tie the net off with a scarf. Everyone settled down to minimal bouncing, and many hands worked together to carry the bundle of ropes and disgruntled animal back to solid ground. "You got him. Is he okay? He didn't sprain anything in that net, did he?" I hope he didn't eat too much fruit. He'll do that if given the chance, you know." The owner was grateful, and worried, and relieved, and talkative. Eggskin had arrived from our ship with a medical scanner, and thankfully, they could put everyone's mind at ease about the state of our animal cargo. The tree leaper was fine. It had a stomach full of fruit and a bloodstream full of adrenaline, but all it needed was a nice nap in its carrying cage. I considered asking why it hadn't been in the carrier before, when the rented shuttle got its window smashed, but I didn't. A small hand patted my back, as far up as it could reach. "Earning your keep once again," said Captain Sunlight. I laughed. That was my pleasure. Another human lingering nearby asked, "Is there anything else that needs catching? That was great." "Yeah, you should sell tickets to this," agreed another. A Frillian in a port uniform said, "No, but thank you." She paused, then added, I wonder if that's worth suggesting to the owner of all this insulation. It's useless for its intended purpose now that it's breached the sanitation shielding." I smiled. It still makes an excellent trampoline, even with footprints all over it. Lay those out in an empty field and charge people entrance, and they can make back a decent amount of money. You get plenty humans through this port, right? The woman who caught the tree leaper said, "We're here early for a family reunion before the big festival. Then there are 3 or 4 sporting events in a row. Let us know if that does happen, because we can get you a lot of humans interested in jumping on this stuff." I had to leave with the animal cargo back to our courier ship, so I didn't hear how the rest of the conversation went. But I saw the official bring the representative of the hauling group over to meet the humans. He looked very interested in what the spokesperson had to say. I grinned at the scene as I walked away. The intense conversation in front of the vast playground of bouncy surfaces. I wondered if we'd get a chance to come back for a visit, when they got it set up properly.